Ever woken up to find the world you thought you knew flipped on its head, like one minute you're sipping coffee on your porch in the Rockies, watching dawn set the sky on fire. The next there's a woman with mascara tears screaming at you, convinced you've single-handedly doomed a whole community. Because that's how my war with the Summit Ridge estate started. I mean, talk about a rude awakening. There's Dinda Blackwell standing on my front step at 6 a.m., shrieking, "You shut off our water," her breath fogging in the mountain air, finger jabbing at my chest like I'd just detonated a bomb instead of closed a valve on my own land. Behind her, the Gore Range glowed gold and pink, majestic, cold, utterly indifferent. Mountains have watched empires crumble for centuries. They'd see this little kingdom fall too. My husband's on the phone with the governor. "You'll be in prison by noon." Now I know how to keep my cool. 2 decades in federal service will teach you that. I just sip my coffee and let the steam rise between us, calm as you please. My dad sitting behind me in his wheelchair, his hands steady for the first time in months, just watched the sun lift over the lake, the same one Dinda had kicked him off of less than a day ago. There was steel in his eyes again. Like maybe, just maybe, he recognized himself in the reflection for the first time in a long time. I kept my voice even. "Mrs. Blackwell, I didn't shut off anything. I closed a valve on my private property, a valve that's been illegally feeding your HOA for 15 years. Let that settle. Out here, water rights aren't suggestions, they're gospel." And now watching the colors drain from Dinda's face, pink to red to purple, then this ugly shade of gray, well, you could practically feel the ground shift under her fancy blue suit. She'd obviously thrown it on in the dark, probably as her phone started blowing up with panic from all those dry faucets. Then the cavalry rolled in 2 Summit County Sheriff cruisers, a black SUV with federal plates. Dinda's face flickered between rage, confusion, and finally raw fear as she clocked U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on the side. "You know what Colorado water rights are worth, Mrs. Blackwell." I finished my coffee. "More than your house, more than your husband's company, more than every crooked favor your commissioner brother-in-law ever called in." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. 3 weeks ago, I was a nobody. A tired son driving 12 hours from Fort Collins to take care of his dying dad in a log cabin at 9,000 feet. Hadn't the faintest clue I was about to bring down the most powerful woman in Summit County. You want to see something beautiful? The lake appeared through the pines like a secret. The water so clear you could see the shadows of trout 30, 40 feet down. This land, Whitfield Lake, my great-grandfather staked his claim here before Colorado was even a state. I remember easing the truck down the forest road, giving Dad time to soak it in. "Still here," he whispered, first words in 2 days. My daughter Wren, 16, glued to her phone, no signal for 40 minutes. Poor kid just asked, "We're staying here," like she'd been exiled to Mars. No cell service. My dad smiled. "There's something better. There's quiet." He'd won this land in 1971, a federal homesteading lottery for Vietnam vets. 800 acres, water rights worth more than most folks make in a lifetime, though. I didn't know it yet. I'd been gone 22 years, Army Corps, Okinawa to Stuttgart. Thing is, water's never just water. It's power politics, survival, all flowing through the same pipes. My father never asked me to come home even after his stroke. It was my sister who called. "He's just sitting by the window staring at the mountains." The cabin was smaller than I remembered, built from logs my great-granddad cut himself. On the wall, dusty photos, my mother at the lake, her smile frozen in time. Wren made straight for the outlet. I helped Dad down. He just stared at the water like it held his whole life. We weren't alone long. Up the hill, absurd at this altitude, a golf cart appeared. Dinda Blackwell behind the wheel, blue suit, clipboard hair gleaming. Walked straight onto my porch, didn't knock. "I'm Dorinda Blackwell, president of the HOA. She looked us over mud-spattered truck, Dad's wheelchair, Wren's dusty boots, like she was scoring us on some secret checklist. We were clearly failing. "We weren't informed of any property transfer." Her smile tightened. "This is my father's land," I said. "Has been since '71. Federal homestead patent." She rattled off a list of HOA covenants, vehicle access, exterior aesthetics, and glanced at Dad's wheelchair like it was an eyesore. "Lake usage protocols for my own lake," I repeated. "Summit Ridge has had exclusive rights since 2009, she said. "Your father signed a water sharing agreement." Dad's jaw was stone. No. Dinda didn't blink. Perhaps his memory isn't what it used to be. I have documentation. That was the first time the tired sun faded and the 20-year federal bulldog woke up. Mrs. Blackwell, I said, stepping in. I spent 2 decades as a hydrological engineer for the Army Corps. I know exactly what water-sharing agreements look like, and what forgeries look like too. She flinched. Mask snapped back. Our attorney will contact you. She didn't mean welcome. She meant war. The next few days, pure siege. Dinda and her clipboard-wielding minions trying to push us off the dock my dad built with his own hands, the one he carried my mother across on their wedding day years before her precious community even existed. Water access is a privilege in Colorado, she crowed, not a right. She smiled like she'd already won. Unless, of course, you have seen your water rights documentation, which we most definitely did. That night I called the county recorder. Sir, speak to an attorney first. The Blackwells run everything up here, the commissioner, the judge, it's all family. My dad just sat there staring at the lake. They've been doing this since before your mother died. Pushed boundaries, filed false surveys, challenged my water rights 6 times. I won every case. But they just keep coming, like water wearing down stone. A certified letter arrived. Code violation, unauthorized structure maintenance. 18 grand in fines, submit plans, or face demolition. Cease and desist from Blackwell and Associates, same address as Clearwater Mountain Management, the company supposedly maintaining the HOA's water system. In my work, I learned coincidence like that never is. Digging deeper, I found Clearwater was owned by Dinda's husband, Garrett. Every piece of the development built, maintained, regulated was in their hands. You go up against them, you fight the whole machine. Then came the twist. Wren called, terrified. Dad, come home now. I hit the gas. Found Dad's wheelchair stuck in the mud by the lake, him soaked, shivering. She'd pushed him, said he was trespassing, tried to dump a 74-year-old vet in the water to prove a point. Wren had it on video, thank God. That's when something inside me just snapped into focus. 20 years of training, all those maps and flowcharts and contingency plans. I pulled out Dad's old files, maps, surveys, water tests, court filings, and then buried at the bottom a federal water rights certificate from 1978. Priority date, 1889. Our spring didn't just feed our lake. It supplied the whole aquifer that Summit Ridge's wells tapped into. Every house depended on water stolen from our land for 15 years. I called in reinforcements. Old friends, an Army Corps district engineer, a forensic accountant. Patricia, the engineer, promised an inspection team. You're about to make some powerful enemies, she warned. They already made me theirs, I said. My guy traced HOA payments over $3 million siphoned through shell companies, 0 maintenance performed. It was embezzlement, wire fraud, all of it. Then Wren found the intake valve half buried by the spring. Government surplus Army Corps serial number, my father had installed it for a federal water monitoring program. And the agreement was still active. I could legally regulate the flow, shut it off if I wanted. When the time came, I didn't close it, just dialed it down enough to drop the pressure. At 5 a.m., 340 households woke up to dry taps. By 5:45, Dinda was at my door, mascara running, ready to tear my head off. You're destroying this community. This is attempted murder. All I said was, this is Colorado water law. First in time, first in right. By 7, the meadow looked like a refugee camp. Dinda tried to rile them up. This outsider is holding us hostage. I set up a projector, showed them everything. Federal certificates, geological surveys, financial records, evidence their own HOA president had stolen millions and pushed a veteran into the lake. The crowd turned. Wren raised her phone. Want me to show everyone what protecting the community looks like? Right then, Army Corps trucks rolled up, EPA officials in tow. Mrs. Blackwell, please remain in the area. Her last card, I know the governor, ma'am, and Colorado water rights are property rights. You've been stealing for 15 years. The inspections, the financials, the forensic evidence. By afternoon, the entire board resigned. The judge recused himself. The commissioner was under investigation. The indictments hit 7 weeks later, 53 counts across 6 defendants. Water theft, wire fraud, conspiracy, public corruption. The company liquidated funds, returned to homeowners, families driven off their land, finally getting justice. Dinda's blue suit made one last appearance, her mugshot. She looked smaller, diminished. No armor left. 6 months later, the lake is just as it's always been. My father, stubborn as ever, now walking short distances with a cane. Wren's filming a documentary. Even the new HOA president, retired water attorney hell-bent on doing things right, admits, "You could have bled us dry, charged whatever you wanted." That was never the point, I told him. See, the lesson here, if there's one at all, is that some fights aren't about winning. They're about proving the truth. Still matters even where money usually wins. Water finds its own level. Corruption, too. You can dam it up, but it always pushes through eventually. Now, every morning, Dad wheels himself to the dock, watching the sun rise over water that belongs legally, spiritually to our family. Dinda won't be eligible for parole for another 9 years. Her brother-in-law lost his seat by a landslide. The clerk's office now runs with oversight and transparency. And somewhere down in Summit Ridge Estates, 340 families turn on their taps and get clean water from a spring protected by a Vietnam vet who refused to let the mountains forget. So what really happens when one person stands up to a corrupt system in a place where money's supposed to win every time? I'll tell you, sooner or later the system runs dry. Now, was that justice? Was it revenge or just overdue karma? Drop your thoughts below, especially if you've ever tangled with an HOA or seen power used and abused like this. I'd love to hear your stories, and so would the mountains.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.